Can you hear me?
I can, Ron.
Okay, good
And I can
morning,
see-
everybody.
I'm having troubles with internet stability. So if
Yep.
if you lose me, somebody else take over if I happen to be chairing. I got some internet problems happening here this morning.
Okay, we can hear you, but you're
Log into
frozen.
the- Make sure we're streaming live.
You're frozen.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For those that are following us, welcome to our county council meeting of December the 15th, 21. And we have a resolution to call the meeting to order.
Moved by Councillor McDonald and seconded by Councillor Higgs, resolved that council resolve itself into committee of the whole closed session as authorized under section 239 of the Municipal Act to consider adoption of closed minutes of meeting held November 17th, 2021, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board as it relates to property acquisition for the Kmp Trail, labor relations or employee negotiations as it relates to negotiations with OPSU, and a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board as it relates to the Ontario health teams.
Any comment? All in favor? Carried. Okay, who's taking this? Kelly?
Do we
Very
have
well,
to,
I believe we have
we
to
need-
log out of this meeting and into the closed session.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. All right, see you in 5 minutes,
see you on the other side?
hopefully. Do we have everyone? No,
Not yet.
count.
Dennis,
No,
can you hear me?
no.
Don't see Bill McDonald.
No,
Dennis, can you hear me okay?
I can. Your motion is a little jerky, but your voice is coming through good.
Okay. When we get to the committee of the whole, I'm going to need you to chair that as well, because I'm having real difficult problems with internet here this morning.
That's fine, as long as I'm the warden. That's not concluded yet.
I was going to say, Councillor Higgins is assuming something.
Yes.
he just doesn't know who his competition is yet.
There you go. Do you want to wait for Bill McDonald or do you want to start?
I think we should go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then we have a resolution.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Rebel. Resolved that council rise from the committee of the whole closed session without reporting.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried.
So I will now call for nominations for the office of warden for the following year.
Councillor Higgs.
I'd like to nominate Deputy Warden Dennis Doyle.
Is
Do we have
there
a
a second?
Oh, you
I
want
will
to run it or
second
am I
that.
running it?
I'll
Go ahead,
second
Jeanette.
that.
And are there any other nominations for the office of warden?
I move
Seeing-
nominations be closed.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Martin? And all those in favor? And that's carried. Councillor Doyle, do you accept the nomination to stand as warden?
I do.
Perfect. So I'm now just looking for nominations for the office of deputy warden. Councillor Martin?
I nominate Ron Higgins, Councillor Higgins.
And is there a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you. And are there any further nominations for deputy warden?
Move
Seeing-
nominations be closed.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second it.
Councillor McDonald? And all those in favor? So that's carried. Councillor Higgins, do you accept the nomination of deputy warden?
Yes, I do.
So Warden Doyle, I will turn the meeting over to you. And so the next order of business is the declaration of the office of warden and deputy warden. So I'm going to turn turn this over to Tara Meesk in North Frontenac, who will deliver the administration of the declaration of office to Deputy Warden Higgins.
Good morning, everybody.
You make me talking, Karen.
Pardon?
You make me talk.
So you want me to go ahead and declare, Jeanette?
Yes, please.
So I, Ron Higgins, have been appointed to the office of Deputy Warden in the municipality of the Corporation of the County of Frontenac, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truthfully, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and knowing that it is the same force and effect if made under oath. Declared before me at North Frontenac on December 15, 21, And the clerk and myself will now sign the declaration. And that's complete, clerk.
Thank you. And I believe our CAO and Deputy Clerk Kelly Pender will now administer the declaration of office to the warden-elect, as well as dress him with the chain of office.
That's correct. Kelly's here with me. I don't know if you want to.
I'm here.
Get in the view. I, Dennis Doyle, having been appointed to the office of Warden in the municipality of the Corporation of the County of Frontenac, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best interest of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II. And I make this solemn promise and declaration consciously believing it to be true and knowing that it is the same, is of the same force and effect as if made under oath. Declared by me at Glen Burnie on December 15th. And CEO Pender has signed it.
So it's my pleasure, Warden, to present to you the chain of office, yours to wear for the term of your office.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
sir.
and congratulations.
Thank you.
Warden Doyle, I will now turn the meeting over to you.
Thank you very much. And Kelly's left, so I can take the mask off. Just before we get into the meeting, I'd like to make a comment, if you'll bear with me. I would like to start by thanking Councillor Higgs and Councillor Smith for putting my name forward as warden. And thanks to my fellow councillors for giving me the opportunity to serve again as warden of Frontenac County. I would also like to congratulate Deputy Warden Higgins, and I look forward to working with you, Ron, throughout 2022. A special thanks to Mayor Vandewaal for his work and leadership during this very difficult last year while we were dealing with the COVID pandemic. I'm looking forward to working with council and the many Frontenac County partners and stakeholders and constituents in the year ahead. We can expect another hard year with this Omicron variant. And to face the challenges, I want to say I am very pleased to work with such a dedicated and experienced council and staff to get through these difficult times. We have well over 100 years of municipal government experience on this Zoom meeting today. In addition to keeping staff and public and council safe during COVID-19 pandemic, I would like to mention some of the other priorities that I would like to see us pay particular attention to during 2022. In no particular order, here they are. Implement final stages of communal services project, continue to work towards the 4 hours of care at Fairmount, and ensure all residents and staff are kept safe, and look for novel ways to attract and retain new qualified staff at the Fairmount Long-Term Care Home. Support the paramedics in all the extra work they are required to do during the pandemic, and look for unique ways to attract and retain qualified staff. Support improved broadband and cell phone coverage across the Frontenacs. Find ways to do more regarding protecting the environment and support provincial and federal initiatives that we'll see throughout the year to protect us against the climate change and reduce CO2. Maintain good relations with all our partners, such as the library and public health boards, the City of Kingston, our 4 lower tiers, EOWC, the new Ontario health teams, provincial and federal representatives, just to mention a few. Develop plans to attract more residents and encourage environmentally friendly development in our townships throughout Frontenac County. And promote using communal services to do so. Enhance support of businesses across Frontenac County and look for ways to attract more. Continue working on municipal involvement in the Ontario health teams and advocate for meaningful governance protecting taxpayers who fund them. Work with the province to advocate for more funding to support long-term care homes, paramedics, public health, and other areas that we levy taxes from our municipalities to support. Continue to support the Kmp Trail initiative and find a way to include all 4 municipalities in this most important and major initiative that has been going on for well over 10 years. I'm sure you will all agree that we want to pass along Frontenac County governance in good shape to the new council in 2023. So I would ask your support to work on these goals during 2022. Our role as council is to set a tone for leadership, stewardship, and respect. As colleagues who have been entrusted to make decisions on behalf of Frontenac County, we do not have to always agree, but we need to listen to each other's opinions in carrying out our responsibilities. Respectful dialogue is part of a responsible political process, and we should always take each vote as it comes. Set aside any petty differences and rise to the challenge in improving the lives of all county citizens, and most importantly, support the decision once made by the majority of council, even if we should have misgivings. In carrying out our duties, we must show mutual respect and professionalism, look out for the greater good of the residents of Frontenac County by working together and fostering good relations. With staff support, we will be well equipped to develop and implement creative solutions. I will promote teamwork. We are all in this together to support taxpayers in Kingston and the Frontenacs. I look forward to working with all of you in 2022 and wish all the best of the season. Now let's go on with the meeting. Thank you. And I have to ask that question. Do we have any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof today? Having seen none, I'll ask Jeanette to record that in the minutes, and we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes of November 17th.
Moved by Councillor Vanderwall, seconded by Councillor Smith. Resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held November 17th, 2021 be adopted.
Any comments? All in favor? Carried. We don't have any deputations or presentations today. So we'll move into the committee of the whole.
Moved by Councillor McDonald and seconded by Councillor Higgs that council adjourn and meet as committee of the whole with the deputy warden in the chair. And I have confirmed with him that he will attempt to take the chair. And if he has connectivity issues, that he will turn it over to you.
Okay. Any questions on that? All in favor? Okay, Ron, try, and if you have trouble, let me know and I'll pick it up.
Okay, and if you have any troubles on the other end, let me know. I may not be aware of them. So we're moving into the committee of the whole. Briefings, we have two briefings today. The first one is a student team from the School of Urban and Regional Planning at Queen's University. Been acting as consultants for the planning department and reviewing methodologies and approaches for a new natural heritage strategy for the county. They will provide council with a briefing today of the summary of their findings and recommendations. I see Sonia's up there. Sonia, are you going to lead this or?
Good morning, Deputy Warden. Yes, I'm just going to provide a brief introduction to the project team, if I may. Good morning to you and to all the members of council. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce the project team from the Queen's University School of Urban and Regional Planning. They have been doing research for us on natural heritage systems. It is a group of 10 students who come from diverse academic backgrounds that are in their second year of doing their master's program at the school. And the work has been overseen by Professor John Melagrana. I'd like to thank Professor Melagrana for approaching us about this opportunity. The county has partnered with the school in the past. It's an excellent opportunity for the students to be able to do work for a real life client, and the county reaps the benefits of their research skills and the excellent work that they do with best practices and case studies. For full disclosure, as a graduate of the program myself, I may be slightly biased, but they've been doing a lot of great work over the last 4 months, doing research to support the new natural heritage strategy, which staff came and made a presentation to council last month as part of our budget deliberations. So they're here today to present their findings and recommendations. In all honesty, it's work that we as staff would not have time to do given our current workload. And it is something that is going to set us up for success with the natural heritage strategy, because it is going to allow us to refine the terms of reference and the scope for the project. And it is work that we are not going to have to pay a consulting firm to do in advance of the rest of the work with the strategy. So all the students, as well as Professor Melagrana, I believe, are online with us this morning. 3 of them have been brought over as panelists for the presentation. So I would like to introduce Mike Carrier, who is the project manager, along with Janelle Trish and Michaela Hines, who are going to deliver the presentation. Thanks. I'll turn it over to you guys.
Excellent. Thank you for the introduction, Sonia. Just bear with me one moment as I get the presentation set up.
While you're setting that up, I just want to welcome you. A nice introduction, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Welcome.
Excellent. So everybody sees the slides then?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay, well, good morning, Council. My name is Mike Carrier, and I'm the project manager for the Queen's University Environmental Planning Research Project. Today, I'm joined by Michaela and Janelle, and our team will be presenting a long-term planning framework to protect Frontenac County's natural heritage systems. As stated before, our team is comprised of 10 graduate students from the School of Urban and Regional Planning at Queen's University, and in the past, graduate students from the planning school have worked with the county on numerous projects. We are pleased today to have the opportunity to do so again. So today we will begin by explaining why a new natural heritage study is needed to protect Frontenac's natural heritage systems. This will address both emerging threats within Frontenac County and provide an overview of the natural heritage study that was conducted by the county in 2012. We will then outline the research methods that we use to develop our recommendations. And finally, we will present our recommendations for a new long-term natural heritage study framework. So why is a new natural heritage study needed? Well, nature is under threat, and as a result, Frontenac County is changing. These threats include climate change, population growth, species at risk, invasive species, waterfront development, pollution, habitat loss, and resource extraction. These threats place increased pressure on the natural heritage systems, resulting in the deterioration of the county's natural landscapes. Furthermore, the current trend of people escaping in nature has recently been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic, resulting in increased demand for access to natural landscapes and increased pressure on the natural heritage systems supporting these natural landscapes. Given these threats and the vast quantity of natural landscapes throughout Frontenac, action is required now to protect the precious natural systems which characterizes the county before they are lost forever to development. So in 2012, the county undertook a natural heritage study which identified and mapped the county's natural heritage and conservation boundaries. The natural heritage study focused on identifying linkages throughout the county. However, this model is more appropriate for urban landscapes, which is not reflective of Frontenac. The study was crucial in providing a snapshot of the natural heritage in the county, which was used to inform policy recommendations that were incorporated into the county's official plan. In this way, the study can be viewed as successful in achieving the goal of ensuring that natural heritage features and systems were a major consideration in the county's planning policies. However, since 2012, the county's landscape has changed, and Frontenac is now presented with an opportunity to produce an innovative long-term strategy for the protection of its natural heritage systems. This strategy needs to reevaluate the 2012 study with up-to-date information that incorporates the modern values, knowledge, and ecological principles that are important to the people of Frontenac. So for this report, we use 5 qualitative research methods. These included site visits and policy analysis to get the lay of the land. Our team spoke with 12 experts from conservation and planning fields. We reviewed over 100 academic articles in our literature review. And finally, our team analyzed 19 case studies to identify best practices and develop recommendations for Frontenac County to integrate into a future natural heritage study. I will now pass it on to Michaela to speak about the recommendations.
Based on our research, we have compiled a strategy for Frontenac's natural heritage protection based on 6 recommendations and several dozen action items. Note that there will be images of the plans below the action items on each slide, which are the case studies that we use to justify these recommendations. These 6 recommendations include enhance legal protection for natural heritage, partner with Indigenous communities, protect critical ecosystems, foster opportunities for stewardship and engagement, connect people to the landscape, and invest in models. The first of these recommendations is to enhance legal protection through updating Frontenac County's official plan policies. One of the things we found are that there are sustainable land uses that complement the functions of the natural heritage system, such as naturalized gardens or landscaping with native species, regenerative agriculture and swales, or other naturally designed stormwater facilities, which should be incorporated into the zoning designations. For instance, through a novel approach like conservation zoning, or applying holdings or conditional provisions to natural heritage features, or implementing a dual designation that would allow for multiple uses to coexist. Another action item is to assign economic values to natural heritage components. While putting a price tag on components of the environment is a contested issue, we examined case studies that did this for the ecosystem services that the natural features provide, such as water filtration, carbon storage, habitat for pollinators and wildlife, and recreational opportunities. Wetlands in Southern Ontario's Greenbelt have been estimated to provide ecosystem services worth roughly $14,000 per hectare annually. And forests in the Greenbelt have been estimated to provide roughly $5,500 per hectare annually. Applying this to Frontenac County's 45,000 hectares of wetlands and 227,000 hectares of woodlands implies that wetlands and woodlands in Frontenac are together providing roughly $1.837 billion per year in ecosystem services. There is immense economic value to these natural assets that need to be strategically managed at the county level. We recommend that the county develop a natural asset inventory or include a green infrastructure component in the county's asset management plan. We also recommend that Frontenac legitimize regionally or locally significant features and areas of the natural heritage system. The provincial policy statement places stringent regulations on provincially significant natural features. However, our idea is that locally significant features should be identified through an extensive collaboration process so that these features can be protected to a greater degree. There is also a need for new processes, guidelines, and supporting documents. We propose that just as urban areas have a set of urban design or community design guidelines that are referenced during the development process, that Frontenac County should develop a rural design guideline that centers around natural heritage, and this would allow the county to expand what is quantified as a natural feature. For instance, by creating a glossary of aesthetic features that may not provide services that support our physical health, but may support our spiritual or mental health, such as night skies or viewscapes. The second recommendation is to partner with Indigenous communities. Indigenous peoples and communities have a rich knowledge and interconnected understanding of place and the environment. Indigenous voices were left out of the 2012 Natural Heritage Study, and now the county has an opportunity to learn and deepen our connection with the lands through the new Natural Heritage Study, so that the next strategy for natural heritage protection can better represent Frontenac and the people that live there. We encourage the county to establish a firm commitment to undertake meaningful engagement by adopting an Indigenous engagement plan or hiring an Indigenous consulting firm to help guide a framework on how to create spaces to learn, share, and foster respectful, reciprocal relationships. The county can also facilitate opportunities for knowledge sharing through workshops, events, and site visits, and also through incorporating traditional ecological knowledge into baseline data for wildlife and vegetation mapping. This is an opportunity to develop a more well-rounded understanding of how the landscape works, how it's changed over time, and how it can be managed moving forward. The third recommendation is to protect critical ecosystems by adapting a landscape ecology approach. Right now, linkages are too heavily based on a path of least resistance, rather than ecological criteria. Since Frontenac has an abundance of natural features, the county needs to adopt a landscape ecology approach, which acknowledges that a mosaic of patches provides resiliency to ecosystems and therefore prioritizes core areas. This can be done by refining, redefining, and broadening the requirements of a patch to be considered a core area in order to capture large swaths of land, such as the Kennebec watershed, that can be officially protected. We also encourage the county to ensure consistent and ongoing monitoring by developing more robust data and high-quality spatial imagery, as well as ensure that the Natural Heritage Plan is a living document that evolves with Frontenac's communities, and therefore provides consistent and reliable monitoring of core areas to observe indicators of ecosystem health over time. And now I will pass it on to Janelle to present the remaining recommendations.
Thanks. So one outcome of the 2012 study was the proposal of several stewardship initiatives, and the county can build on this momentum to expand its stewardship initiatives and establish specific performance measures to ensure accountability to these commitments. This can be done by building programming capacity through partnerships, for instance, between academic institutions and local conservation organizations to provide internships and volunteer positions for students in biology, geography, and environmental sciences. This is also an opportunity to use creative engagement tactics to leverage citizen science, which is a very valuable form of environmental monitoring. This could include methods like murals and storytelling, and have a combination of centralized engagement methods, which are things like open houses and events, as well as decentralized methods. An example of this would be to develop a digital engagement platform using a map-based interface that would allow participants to add pins to the map and share their knowledge, favorite places, ideas for improving, and areas of concern. We also recommend that the county facilitate knowledge sharing and build programming capacity by, again, partnering with local academic institutions such as Queen's, St. Lawrence College, and Elbow Lake Environmental Education Center to lead educational initiatives, such as by creating an ecology speaker series or an annual conference event that would discuss the region's pressing environmental and planning issues. And since a lot of the land in Frontenac that needs to be protected is privately owned, we recommend that the county partner with private landowners and develop specific initiatives that can help promote conservation practices. For instance, the county could develop a homeowner's guide at a site scale to provide tools for incorporating nature-inclusive design solutions, such as green roofs, green walls, pollinator gardens, vegetable gardens, and pocket forests. Our fifth recommendation is to connect people to the landscape. We recommend that the county go above and beyond what the Natural Heritage Reference Manual considers a natural feature to include features that have aesthetic or placemaking importance. This can help protect the recreational landscape. And this is particularly relevant because tourists seek out Frontenac for its aesthetic recreational experiences. We also recommend that the county establish a vision in the form of a regional charter that declares the county's commitments to balancing conservation and recreation by unifying the cultural, historical, and natural identities from all 4 townships. The county has an economic charter posted on its regional priorities webpage. An environmental one could help tie these initiatives together. We also encourage the county to explore green infrastructure opportunities. This could be done by developing a green infrastructure master plan to map out the existing greenway recreational trails, identify opportunities for effective linkages, and establish a system that can create additional connections between the surrounding communities. This is also an opportunity to integrate a climate change lens into the classification of green infrastructure services so that mechanisms can be established to respond to the risks of flooding or other natural disasters that are associated with climate change. And one of the things we asked our experts in our exploratory conversations was, if you could travel to Frontenac County 75 years from now, what would you want it to look like? And we got a range of answers, such as industrial agriculture has been replaced by regenerative and sustainable farming practices. Some envisioned a well-connected old growth forest network. Others envisioned strictly contained settlement boundaries that are well connected by rail. Many expressed interest to have nice places to live and access to green space that's well thought out, as well as having densification policies expressed across the landscape. The majority of the population growth is forecasted in the county's rural areas. However, haphazard rural development has the potential for negative impacts on the county's natural heritage resources, as well as the character of rural areas. Therefore, we recommend that Frontenac pursue opportunities for higher density settlement developments. In order to do this, the transition needs to be made from private servicing to communal servicing, and this is an initiative happening in the county right now. Therefore, we recommend that components of natural heritage planning be integrated with wastewater and infrastructure management so that these 2 initiatives can operate together and take a holistic approach to growth in the county. And finally, our last recommendation is to invest in models. So over the course of this semester, we wrestled with the question of what should we protect in the county. Our framework envisions a regional system where the county's environmental, cultural, and economic assets are well connected and mutually supportive across the landscapes. The county should invest in compiling a centralized and extensive system of map overlays of ecological, historical, and cultural knowledge. Using a multi-criteria approach helps us understand the cumulative impact that interacting functions have on the landscape. It helps add context and establish priorities in the natural heritage plan. This is also an opportunity for the county to use creative map layers, such as an artisanal crafts trail, beekeeping and pollinator landscapes, or traditional ecological knowledge, such as medicine gardens or areas of cultural importance. This is also a chance to identify and map centers of biodiversity and areas of greatest ecological value, such as headwaters and other parts of the water course, or core areas or species at-risk habitats that can be particularly identified. Finally, ground truthing is when data collected at a distance is confirmed by measurements made on location. We recommend this investment as it will ensure the accuracy of maps, and this can be done through field surveys, ecological site data, aerial photos, driving public access roads, etc. In conclusion, our framework has established a strategy based on 6 recommendations and 21 action items that can help Frontenac take preventative measures to protect its natural heritage for future generations. To implement our framework, the county needs to adjust its boundaries and strategies for natural heritage protection, which requires a new natural heritage study to be conducted. Frontenac is already engaging in innovative initiatives such as communal servicing, and having an updated natural heritage study would add to that momentum and establish Frontenac as a regional leader in natural heritage conservation. Proactive protection measures at a landscape scale can protect the continuity of Frontenac's natural heritage now and hopefully for 100 years to come. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our presentation. Our team is happy to have an opportunity to work with the county, and the team is all here today to answer any questions. This concludes our presentation. Thanks.
Thank you very much to all 3 of you. That was an awesome presentation. I'm excited to read the full report as a result. With that, I'll open up to council for any questions. Warden Doyle?
Yes, thanks very much. It was an excellent presentation. I wonder if you have any advice on how we can more quickly move into communal services, and more importantly, what kind of metrics would you suggest we put in place to measure our success and the positive impact we're having on the environment due to expansion of communal services?
I'm not sure who wants to take that.
I'll take
Question?
that. So in terms of implementing communal services, that was outside the scope of our project. We just see communal servicing as a key point to combine our green infrastructure and communal servicing. We see that they're both very important to the environment, and they need to be considered together rather than separately. So we don't necessarily have metrics for implementing the communal service, but we see green infrastructure being a vital part of your communal servicing and the asset management throughout Frontenac County.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have one, and Mike, as a leader of the team presenting today, maybe I'll direct the question to you again. How did the team enjoy this project, and what were the biggest positives that you saw as a team?
So from what I've gathered from my team, this was a new innovative opportunity for us to explore ways to go beyond business as usual and to implement change that's going to be good for the environment in a longer time span rather than the short term that we're so accustomed to planning in. What we kind of loved was there are other places with similar characteristics to Frontenac that are implementing these innovative tools, these innovative methods to managing their natural heritage systems. Again, this is all over the world, so the way that the terms that they use to describe these systems are different, but essentially the premise is the same, that we need to go beyond the Marxan model, which is what is used primarily right now. We need to focus on protecting these major ecological areas. And from what I've heard from my team, what we loved most was the fact that we had an opportunity to explore all these new innovative ways of doing good environmental planning. And we just love that opportunity to be able to present it to Frontenac, who has so much natural features throughout your county. And so that was probably one of the biggest pluses, positives of our project, is we had an opportunity to present some innovative tools and ideas to county, who is also positioned to implement these tools before it's too late. So that was the biggest plus of the project.
Thank you very much. It's pretty much on all of our radar that as you mentioned in your presentation, there's going to be a lot of development pressure for rural Ontario, primarily driven by COVID and people wanting to be in non-urban settings to take the pressure off that. So the timing of this report is very, very good in that regard. And what I really like about this report is using the younger generation like yourselves to put this together. It's really refreshing to get your input and your perspective on this, and we very much appreciate it. Sonia, what are the next steps after this presentation?
Well, thank you through you, Deputy Warden. So the students will be preparing their final report before the end of the year. It will go first to their professor, obviously for review, but then it will be submitted to the county as well. And I can certainly work with Mr. Gallivan and with our clerk in terms of being able to get copies for members of council, so you can see the final document and all of the case studies that the students worked through. Following the work of the students, the next steps would be the approval of the budget for the Natural Heritage Strategy, which I'm sure that council will be discussing later on today's agenda. But if that is approved for 2022, our team will be working then on the terms of reference for that work and being able to use the work that the students have done for us, as I said, to inform that terms of reference and the work going forward, including how we engage with community members for that study as well. I don't know if there's anything perhaps Mr. Gallivan wanted to add. I know he's been working very closely with preparing for this this project as well.
Go ahead, Joel.
Thank you, Deputy Warden Higgins. And I agree with your earlier comment. I've been a practicing planner for 35 years. I'm continually amazed by the young people who want to get into this profession. And this group here that is in front of you today are put a lot of work into this. They were fortunate enough, thanks to Ms. Bolton and our other two planners, Dimitri and Jenny, to do a site visit up as far as north of 7 into the Kennebec wetland complex to get a feel for what Frontenac is all about. And what they've done for us, should County Council proceed with giving us the go-ahead to start the work next year, is they have, first of all, as Michael has said, they've provided us with examples of innovative projects that have been done throughout North America that we can use. They're establishing a template for us. So in effect, they're going to save us some money, quite frankly. And they're going to help when we prepare the terms of reference, set the vision. So in front of council, I would like to thank the Queen's planning students very much for all the hard work they've done. Very much appreciated, and all the best as you move forward in your careers too. Thank you.
Thank you, Joel. Joe, in moving forward, in the recommendations, I see there's a lot of opportunities to engage Queens going forward for helping with implementation. Do you see that as well?
Through you, Deputy Warden, yes. Professor Malagran is on the call today, and I want to thank him as well for reaching out to Ms. Bolton and I to work on this project. We can certainly keep working on, perhaps as we start the work on a natural heritage study next year, we can again turn to Queens to possibly contribute as well.
I think it'd be quite valuable because, as I mentioned, having diversity for implementation, like the younger generation and students wanting to get into this area, would be a mutual benefit to everybody involved. But thank you.
I should also just thank two Frontenac citizens, Mr. Gray Merriam and Mr. Barry Gilbert. Gray lives on Kennebec Lake and Barry's on Wolf Island. They had the first meeting with the students with their experience in natural heritage and biology, and they made it clear that for this to be successful, we couldn't think 20 years ahead or 30 years ahead. We have to think 100 years ahead for protection. So I'd like to thank those two gentlemen as well for setting the table.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Joe. Is there any other questions from council? Okay, seeing none. Mike, Michaela, and Janelle, thanks very much for your presentation. It was awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Warden.
Thank you.
Okay. So next we have Mr. Kelly Pender, Chief Administration Officer, going to provide council with his monthly report.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. And I believe Angelique will put the presentation up on the screen. Just a little easier to do it that way. And before she gets that up on the screen, just a little update since the agenda went to press on Friday. We've had a little bit of an outbreak with paramedics and long-term care. And over the weekend, our team worked with public health on the contact tracing. And I think we're in a better spot today, but we'll continue to be diligent. All paramedics are being tested at the door, as well as all long-term care employees. And the province is announcing new rules with respect to long-term care that we're implementing as well. And a big thank you to staff who worked through the weekend on that. And as always, thank you to public health for their help and support throughout this. So as usual, I'll try and highlight something on each screen, but available to answer questions or to follow up. It's been a busy month, and as we get to the Christmas break, I just want to wish everybody a happy Christmas and stay as safe as you can. as we go through the holidays. The new variant is going to change how we react to the virus, and hopefully, although it appears to be more contagious, particularly in the Kingston region, it will prove to be a fairly mild variant, particularly for those that have been vaccinated. So thank you very much. Next screen, Angelique. So thank you very much. It's been, as I said, a busy month, and I'd be remiss in not thanking past Warden Vanderwall for support throughout the year, and all the best to Warden Doyle and Deputy Warden Higgins as we move into 2022. Been very busy this last few weeks with a number of different provincial initiatives. We'll talk about the Wardens Caucus and the Leadership Council in a moment. Next screen, please. So the Wardens Caucus, we had a meeting with the Eastern Ontario MPPs on November the 26th. Continue to impress upon the wardens or on the MPPs the priorities of Eastern Ontario, particularly Ontario health teams and long-term care, and of course our continued efforts with respect to connectivity. We did receive a report on the rollout of the cellular project. We weren't successful in getting the gigabit project, but that continues to be rolled out through provincial and federal initiatives and announcements throughout Eastern Ontario. The EORN has committed to continue to provide the Wardens Caucus with updates on how that rollout will affect Eastern Ontario. Our concern remains that there will be some gaps in Eastern Ontario, particularly some of the rural areas, but we will be working with the province to make sure that everything is covered. In the meantime, we expect updates at the January AGM with respect to the rollout of the cellular project. Rogers has been an excellent partner, and many of their existing towers have now been upgraded, including work in Frontenac County, and we'll receive an update in January, and we'll report back. We were successful in receiving further grant funding from CMHC, the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation, to fund a research project with respect to rural housing and options for rural housing, including a database that will make it easier for our member municipalities to look at housing in more detail in their area by aggregating data that's readily available. As you're aware, census data often aggregates at too high a level to make decisions at a local level. So we're hoping that through this funding that over the next year, we'll be able to provide to each of the member municipalities and the Wardens Caucus more detailed information about housing availability at a municipal township level. The Eastern Ontario Leadership Council continues to meet monthly under their new incorporated status. Chair Higgins, as representative of the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and of course, Deputy Warden of Frontenac County, continues to lead those meetings and the strategic planning session that we had back in November. And I think it's safe to say that the priorities of 2019 with COVID lens applied are still applicable. Workforce development, rural transportation, continue to be at the forefront. The Eastern Ontario Leadership Council has received about $1.2 million in funding over the last 24 months to support regional economic development initiatives that will give tools to our local economic development officers and council. So it's certainly been a busy time for the Leadership Council as we transition to a corporate entity, and we continue to advocate for Eastern Ontario from an economic development perspective. Next slide, please. So just wanted to highlight some of the things that communal servicing will allow us to apply. So if you follow the link in this slide, there are initiatives that are regularly announced that with communal servicing that we'll be able to look at. This is just one example. of CBRE Limited looking for properties for laboratory, ancillary office space, storage, and fleet and equipment space, that with communal servicing options that we will be able to apply for and to put our names forward on. Next slide, please. AMO, they are planning for August the 14th to 17th, hosted in person at the City of Ottawa. If you are interested in attending on behalf of the County of Frontenac, please contact Angelique or Jeanette. We'll make sure that you get registered. Hopefully it'll be in person. Always nice to be in our nation's capital in August and take advantage of the great program that AMO puts on. Next slide, please. Ontario has appointed a housing affordability task force. And I know that there has been some discussion that this is largely an urban focused project. Minister Clerk has promised that at the ROMA conference, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association in January, that there will be further discussions regarding the rural approach. And I think that Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus has been leading the charge in terms of what does rural affordable housing look like, and the recent grant announcement from the Canadian Mortgage and Housing Corporation will enable us to focus that in and to identify needs that are more appropriate to rural circumstances. And again, certainly communal servicing will allow for more density in a more appropriate fashion for rural communities. Next slide, please. Just more information. Just an update on the admin office project. We continue to, as we reported in November, work towards a tender in January of 2022 with the entire project. Continue to work closely with our partners at the Conservation Authority. So we should have a report back in the new year in terms of the final design. It is still the same design that we looked at a year ago. We made a couple of minor tweaks, but largely the project is as reviewed by the committee and by council. So we should have, subject to market forces, we should have all of those numbers back to the committee early in the new year and ultimately for council approval. And if all goes well, we'd be looking at a construction window of roughly May of 2022 for approximately a year. And as I mentioned in November, our primary priority is to look at options that reduce the timeline, which will reduce the price. And we have met with CRCA staff to look at how that phasing would happen and what options that would look like. Probably maintaining a small contingent on site of IT and finance staff and probably myself, but looking at remote options for the rest of staff. But we'll bring back a full plan once we see the numbers and how that all rolls out. Next slide, please. Communications update, and pleased to report that one of our most popular social media was the shaving of Mike Van Hardingsveld's mustache. Pleased to report that Mike is now reporting a 2.4% increase in his gas mileage, as he is now sporting a non-mustache, which is kind of Movember in reverse. And we it's our job to tease Mike incessantly about this, but thank you to Mike for putting his mustache forward and raising $2,000 from his fellow paramedics and county staff. So thank you, Mike. And apparently his wife didn't recognize him without a mustache, that she'd never seen him that way. So thank you to Mike and to Matt for managing the channel. Next slide, please. And I just also want to do a bit of a shout out to our United Way campaign team, Melissa, Angelique, and Jennifer. Actually exceeded our goal, raised $7,230 largely without having an event, which is pretty amazing. So that's largely through payroll deduction. And just a big shout out to the United Way team for their leadership on that, and to all the staff that raised the $7,230. And it's it goes to worthwhile causes throughout Frontenac County, and a big thank you to the United Way. We've also worked on GIS Day and accessibility improvements to the Kmp Trail, and of course our thank you to the province for their efforts with respect to accessibility to the Kmp Trail, and Richard for his leadership in getting that stuff rolled out. Next slide, please. Planning applications, and we are at 174 applications with about 15 days left in the year, so we may break 175 or more. So that is a 167% increase over last year, which was a record over the previous year. And hopefully Sonia and Jenny and Dimitri can put their feet up, and also our planning friends at South Frontenac again are breaking records as well. So the hashtag in Frontenac, thank you to everybody that's helping to make that happen, and appreciate the efforts of the planning teams and the committees of adjustment and the frontline staff at each of the member municipalities. It's been a hectic year, but again, a record set, and we'll see what 2023 brings, but based upon the calls that Sonia and the team are getting for pre-applications, I suspect that we'll be in record-breaking territory again next year. Next slide, please. Kmp Trail Updates began at the Verona Trailhead on December the 8th and will conclude next year. We provided about 3.5 kilometers of edge protection as part of our accessibility requirements, and there's a picture in the middle there. We'll continue to monitor the trail counts, and it'll be interesting over the winter to see the switch from pedestrian and cyclists to obviously motorized traffic with snowmobiles. So we'll continue to provide counsel with those numbers, and look forward to a busy snowmobile season, assuming winter does arrive. Next slide, please. HR update, again, record-breaking number of competitions. We're at 565, likely to get close to 600 between now and the end of the year. I checked this morning, we're at about four pages of openings throughout the Frontenac website in terms of jobs that people can apply for, particularly at Fairmount. RPNs are in particular demand. So if you know of anybody looking for a great place to work, please direct them to our websites, and our crack HR team will be pleased to work with them through the process. Next slide, please. Congratulations to some new staff members. Debbie Miller, our new community development officer, who comes to us from the city of Kingston, where she was a manager of communications and community engagement. Welcome, Debbie. Danny Young as our new environmental services manager. Danny is a Sodexo employee, but we integrate him into absolutely everything we do, and look forward to working with Danny over the next year. And you will meet Aaron Babcock, who is our administrative clerk, sitting at the front door when the office is open. Aaron's been here about 2 weeks now. I think this is her second week, and it's been a pleasure to work with Aaron, and look forward to working with her in the new year as well. So with that, I think that is our last slide. If there are any questions, Deputy Warden, be pleased to answer them or follow up with anything should we not have the answers directly at hand.
Thank you, Kelly. Great report. Just welcome new employees, and congratulations to the staff for raising funds for the community. That's an awesome job. Any questions for Kelly? Seeing none, thanks very much, Kelly. We have no unfinished business. We'll go to recommended reports from the Chief Administration Officer. First one being Corporate Services, Fairmont Home Accounts Receivable.
That's moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Warden Doyle. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Corporate Services 2021 Fairmont Home Accounts Receivable Write-Offs Report, and further that Council authorize the Treasurer to write off accounts totaling $4,137.90.
Thank you, Jeanette. Any questions? See none. All in favor? And my screen is kind of slow. So from now on, I'm just going to ask if there's any objections to the motion. And if I'll just listen for input instead of waiting for hands to go up. I did see all the hands go up on this one, so it's passed. Next, we have Corporate Services 2021 Canada Community Building Fund Allocation. Can you read the recommendations, Jeanette?
Moved by Councillor Vanderwall, seconded by Councillor Martin. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac accept the Corporate Services 2021 Canada Community Building Fund Distribution Bylaw Report, and further that the clerk be directed to bring forward a bylaw to authorize the distribution of the Canada Community Building Fund allocation to the townships for 2021.
Any questions from council? Seeing none, any objections to the motion? Hearing none, motion's approved. Next, we have the 2022 draft budget revision.
Moved by Councillor Rebel, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Corporate Services 2022 draft budget revision report, and further that Council amend the budget to reflect the adjustments outlined in the report. And finally, that Council of the County of Frontenac pass a bylaw later in the meeting approving the 2022 budget.
Any questions on that recommendation? Seeing none, any objections to the motion? Motion carried. Next, we have the 2022 tax ratios and tax rate reductions.
Moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Smith. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac accept the Corporate Services 2022 tax ratios and tax rate reductions report, and further that Council consider a bylaw introduced later in the meeting to confirm 2022 the tax ratios and tax rate.
Is there any questions on that recommendation? Seeing none, any objections to the motion? Seeing none, motion approved. Next, we have the Emergency and Transportation Services.
Moved by Councillor Vanderwall, seconded by Councillor Martin. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Emergency and Transportation Services Frontenac Paramedics Purchasing Contract with HealthPro, and further that the Council of the County of Frontenac authorize the Treasurer to execute an agreement with HealthPro Procurement Services, Inc.
Is there any questions on that recommendation? See none, any objection to the recommendation, motion? Seeing none, motion approved. Next, we have the Planning and Economic Development.
Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Rebel. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Planning and Economic Development Report request to declare lands as surplus for the purpose of a right-of-way over the Frontenac Kmp Trail at Part Lot 7, Concession 2, Geographic Township of Hitchinbrook, Township of Central Frontenac, and further that in accordance with bylaw number 17-1995, the Council of the County of Frontenac pass a bylaw later in the meeting to declare lands legally described as Part 4 on Reference Plan 13R 22551, Part Lot 7, Concession 2, Geographic Township of Hitchinbrook, Township of Central Frontenac, for the purposes of granting a right-of-way over part of the Kmp Trail right-of-way in favor of a property identified as Parts 5 and 6 on Reference Plan 13R 22551, Part Lot 7, Concession 2, Geographic Township of Hitchinbrook, Township of Central Frontenac, for the purposes of accessing this newly created lot, And further, that the Council of the County of Frontenac authorize staff to execute the necessary legal agreements to provide the above noted legal right-of-way to the adjacent landowner, subject to the following conditions. Number one, that all surveying and legal fees be borne by the landowner. Number two, the right-of-way across the Kmp Trail shall be surveyed to a minimum of 10 meters or 33 feet along the frontage of both lots to gain access across the trail. And number three, the trail crossing on county lands will be upgraded at the expense of the applicant to the Frontenac County Private Roads Lanes study standards, and in such a way to ensure the trail surface will not be exposed to unnecessary damage or deterioration from the improved crossing. Consideration will also be given to drainage. This work will be completed to the satisfaction of the Manager of Economic Development or their designate. And further, that the clerk be directed to give public notice of the council's intention in accordance with bylaw number 17, 1995.
Thank you for that, Jeanette. Is there any questions? Seeing none, any objections to the motion? I see none, motion's carried. Next, we have 2021-117 corporate services tax rate.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Higgs. Resolved that Council of the County of Frontenac accept the Corporate Services 2022 tax rate report, and further that Council consider a bylaw introduced later in the meeting to establish the 2022 tax rates.
Any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion is carried. Next, we have -121, the office's authorization into an MOU.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vanderwall. Be it resolved that the Warden and Clerk be authorized to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Township of Frontenac Islands for the day-to-day management of the Frontenac Howe Island County area.
Any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion is carried. Next, we have the interim approval of 2022 expenditures.
And if I could just get confirmation from our treasurer, I believe that we can withdraw this report considering that council has now approved the 2022 budget. If the treasurer could just please confirm that.
Alex?
So was the bylaw to approve the budget has not been read yet, correct?
Exactly. I hope not.
That's correct. That's correct.
So assuming it gets passed, we don't need that report. If it doesn't get passed, we would then need that report. So can we defer that till later?
So we can just pass this. We can pass this resolution then, and it would become redundant if the bylaw passes. Would that be okay with council? So that's moved by
Yes, it would.
Councillor.
Go ahead.
So moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Higgs. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Corporate Services interim approval of 2022 expenditures report, and further that Council direct the Treasurer to continue to pay payroll and discretionary expenses in accordance with the amounts approved for the 2021 budget and non-discretionary 2022 accounts as invoiced until such time as the 2022 budget has been adopted.
Any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion's carried. Next, we have the authorization to use capital reserves.
Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vanderwall, that Council authorize the use of J.L. Richards as a single source procurement for the purpose of preparing a report to investigate options for the remediation or replacement of Elbow Creek Bridge, and further that Council authorize the use of reserve funds from the Capital Replacement Reserve to fund the options report for the remediation or replacement of the Elbow Creek Bridge.
I do have a question on this one. Probably directed to Richard, I would think. But anyway, I just wanted to know, this bridge deck isn't very old. Guardian already replaced the deck. Why are we not pursuing that they replace this deck as well?
I believe that Guardian no longer exists as an organization.
That's a good answer. Thank you. Any other questions from council? Any objections to the motion? Motion's carried. Information reports. Reports from counter liaison, reports from counter liaison, Fairmont Home, Councillor Martin. I believe there's a report in there.
Yeah, I submitted a written report that was actually written by Susan Brent. If Susan's on, and I see her there, she may have some further comments to make.
Susan, do you have anything to add to the report from Councillor Martin?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay. Where am I? We're at return to council, I guess, Jeanette.
Moved by Councillor Martin, seconded by Councillor Rebel, that council revert from committee of the whole council to council.
All in favor? Sorry. Trick question. It's carried. Back to you, Warden.
Thank you very much. That was very good, Ron. Do we have any notice of motion to give today for the future meetings?
Sorry, Warden
Yes.
Doyle, you've just missed the motion to adopt the report of the committee of the whole. If we could just back up for a second.
Did I? Okay, go ahead.
So that's moved by Deputy Warden Higgins, seconded by Councillor McDonald, that the report of the committee of the whole be adopted and that the necessary actions or bylaws be enacted.
Any questions on that? All in favor? Carried. And now, do we have anybody that wants to give notice of motion for future meetings? Yes, Deputy Warden Higgins.
Yes, I have two I would like to do. The first one being I'd like to put a motion forward that we have a discussion about having a public meeting along with public consultation for communal services. I guess I need a seconder for that.
I'll second if nobody else will. Jerry did. Jerry second.
I'll second it.
You got that, Jeanette?
Sorry, yes, I do.
Okay. Any other notice of motion?
Yeah, I had two, Dennis. And my second one is I'd like to have a discussion with council about having paramedicine services for North Frontenac using the Robertsville paramedics, if that's a possibility. I guess I need a second.
And do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ravel seconds.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Jeanette, we don't have to call the vote on these ones, do we? It's just a notice of motion.
That's correct. They will be brought forward to the next council meeting.
You'll look after that.
Yes, I will.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good. As usual, we have a long list of communications. And is there any questions on those? I don't think we have a resolution for that, Jeanette. So we'll move on to the public question period. Any members of the public there, Angelique, that have questions?
No, there are not.
Okay, so we'll move on to the bylaws.
Moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Smith. Resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce bylaws B through I that have been circulated to all members of County Council, and that bylaws B through I be read a first and second time.
Any questions there?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Councillor Vanderwell first, and then Deputy Warden.
I would like D separated out, and I want a recorded vote.
Okay. Is that all right with you, Jeanette?
Yes, and bylaw D is to establish the tax rates for the year 2022. Is that the correct one, Councillor Vanderwall?
Yep. Well, I assume that's the budget, right, or not?
No, that's not the budget. The budget bylaw is
Okay, sorry.
Okay, you
bylaw
jumped.
E.
E?
Bylaw E. E, to adopt the estimates for the sums requiring during the year 2022 for the purposes of the County of Frontenac. That would be the budget bylaw.
Okay, that's
So
the one.
So it's E.
It's, yes.
And Deputy Warden Higgins, you had a comment or question.
Just a clarification question for Jeanette. The natural heritage study that we were talking about earlier in the meeting, is that covered in these motions somewhere?
I believe the natural heritage study is covered in the budget.
Thank you.
Any more questions? If not, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Oh, you want a recorded vote, did you, Ron?
Sorry, if I could just clarify, currently right now, you're voting on bylaws B and C and B through D. We're missing out E, and then we're doing F through I.
If I just have a question, is this not first and second reading?
Yes, that's correct. First and second reading for bylaws B through D and F through I.
Oh, okay.
You don't want a recorded vote on this one. It's the next one you want.
Right.
All in
What
favor?
about A?
A received first and second reading at the last council meeting, and we had to give public notice, so it will receive third reading, but it received first and second reading at the last council meeting.
All in favor? Carried.
And now for first and second reading of bylaw E. I'm just going to go around the screen. Councillor Higgs, how do you vote? Sorry, you're muted.
I vote yes.
Warden Doyle,
Yes.
Deputy Warden Higgins,
Yes.
Councillor McDonald,
You're muted, Bill.
I read his lips. He said yes.
Push the space bar down and hold it.
Yeah, yes.
Councillor Vanderwall,
No.
Councillor Martin,
Yes.
Councillor Rebel,
Yes.
and Councillor Smith.
Yes.
So that vote is carried 7-2.
Thank you.
And
According to
now,
my-
Did you say
Yes.
7-2?
that's correct. We are now in full
Counts as
council, and
Good.
Councillor Vanderwall counts as 2 votes.
Oh,
Yeah. Remember? Okay.
So we are now on third reading of the bylaws. Councillor Vanderwall, just for clarification, do you want bylaw E separated again?
Might as well.
Okay, I'll call well, you didn't read it yet, so I guess I'll let.
So
you-
that's moved by Councillor Higgs, seconded by Councillor Smith, and it's bylaws A through D and F
Through I.
through G and I. Sorry, bylaw H will not be receiving third reading today. So it's A through D, F through G, and then bylaw I for
Okay.
third reading.
I'll ask if there's any questions on that, all except E, which is on the budget. No questions or comments, so I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried.
And then
now
for
E is going to
bylaw
be,
E. So for bylaw E for third reading, Councillor Higgs, how do you vote?
Yes.
Warden Doyle,
yes.
Councillor Higgins, or sorry, Deputy Warden Higgins,
Yes. Yes.
Councillor McDonald, Councillor
Thanks,
McDonald,
Barb.
you're muted.
I read
Yes.
his list.
Yes.
Councillor Vanderwall,
No.
Councillor Martin,
Yes.
Councillor Rebel,
Yes.
and Councillor Smith.
Yes.
So that is carried on a vote of 7-2.
Thank you. I guess we're down to the adjournments. I just want to wish everybody the best of the season and stay safe. And you want to call the
Yes. Merry
adjournment?
Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Yeah.
So moved by Councillor Vanderwall, seconded by Councillor Smith, that the meeting hereby adjourn at 11:03 a.m.
All in favor? Carried.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.